5:30 music.
Maybe it is. All I had to do was say that. Right? I'm supposed to have a mic, but I think you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully other people can project. Alrighty. There's some of you I won't look at because you make me cry. And if I start to cry, that's okay. I don't mind speaking or crying in public, but don't hug me when I'm crying or it'll turn into Niagara Falls. You know. So I'm Stephanie Turnbull. I'm an old friend of James's. And we're here to honor him as a wonderful person and an amazing activist in all kinds of forms. His nephew Troy and the rest of the family's here, front row. Thank you for coming. And as Troy said when he got out of the truck, Uncle Jimmy had compartmentalized his life, and that's very true because I don't think most people that come here in Eugene would ever think to call him Jimmy. Right? But he was known in his many different roles as Jim, Jimmy, Jake, and for those of you that might have known his spiritual path, Larch. We have Denise, where's Denise? Okay. So she's from the Celeste tribe. She's going to work with us through SIU. She's going to give a blessing and land acknowledgement. We've got the Peace Choir who's going to sing for us. His family is going to have something to say. I don't think our pub is the right. Is that correct? Okay, so maybe not. We're hoping to get the film set up to include the California people. He did a lot of activism in California. Stories that we can share as we munch. One of my favorite movie quotes is from Steel Magnolias, and it's my favorite emotion is laughter through tears. And the last 6 weeks has been a lot of laughter through tears. Just saying that, it's going to make you tear up. Okay, we have food. We have tons of mementos, people. Off the table outside, either side of the food, in the back corner there. No one is allowed outside. He's really taking with them. You know, he collected a lot of things. He's a big collector. So please help us move them to homes where they will be loved. Oh, where am I? So we have food to share, mementos to give, freely given for those who want to have something to remember him by. There are 2 pictures out on the desk on the outside in the foyer.
They're in the kitchen.
Oh, did we have anything to replace it for the donations?
Well, my concern was if we were all in here, I didn't want to leave the pictures outside, so they're.
Oh, we still have them for
We have.
donations. Okay. May I ask where?
In the kitchen.
Oh, they're in the kitchen. Okay. So there are several charities we want to give to in James's name. A couple of cat charities, wilderness and wildlife resource charities, and a couple on political activism. And at first we were going to divide them up, and then it's like, no, this bucket is just for charities. And then there's another bucket because there are people that put in a fair amount of money out of their own pockets for this. So if you can throw any in for costs, that would be great, but there's no obligation to do either one, just what you're moved to do. Where am I? I have 2 very short prayer passages, one from his spiritual path and one from his Scandinavian heritage. So, and I'll try not to cry during these either. We gather here now to bid farewell to dear friend and brother James, Jimmy, Jason, Mark, who must travel far. The blessings of the goddess, of the God, of the old ones, of good friends who are with you as you travel beyond to the summer land. And then a Viking prayer. Hail to the gods, we praise and honor you as we praise and honor the dead. Hail to the brave warrior, the bright shield warrior activist he was called. To his kinsmen and friends, may he live long in the memory of men and women and sit among his kinsmen and women in Valhalla. And my added note is, I hope you're with Katie. Tate and Jess, both of you have saved me a nice spot and a full margarita. Alrighty, Peace Choir. No, oh, prayer. I'm sorry. Denise, sorry. I should have looked at my other piece. Is it okay if I leave this here or no?
We're going to continue doing this just how we live our normal lives. So,
It's okay.
brother, uncle, earth steward, political guru, James was a warrior for justice, including Native American rights. He understood First Peoples' connection to traditional lands and sacred places. Respectfully, we acknowledge the California, whose ancestors from time immemorial have lived and kept the land where we gather. The California survived extermination and termination to live and thrive to this day. Keepers of their culture, their history, and language, and who are now members of the sovereign nations of the Confederate Tribes of Grand Ronde and Confederate Tribes of Sled. We are blessed to share and live our lives in this beautiful place where James walked and talked and talked and walked and marched and lived joyously. Blessed are we who have been welcomed in his sacred circle.
Okay, and now,
My name is David, and we're the Eugene Peace Choir. All of our music is on themes of peace, social justice, and environmentalism. And Choir Love is a member of our group, and James invited us to be a part of it. We're performing two songs. One is called Church of the Woods, which is about spirituality through nature. And Carlo, I was hoping we could do Solidarity Forever.
Yay!
Song of-
Yay!
Yes.
Yes!
yes.
Unfortunately, we don't know that one.
We know it.
And so, the song we're going to do instead is a 1970s song called Let's Make a Better World.
people are coming. See, these are the people that sang. You like to sing. And they sing. They all sing. You are a good singer. Do you like to sing? You can?
I know, there was no.
Well, hi, I'm Troy. This is my brother Brian. Jimmy, you guys don't know about Jimmy, but Jimmy used to take us to the beach a lot when we were kids in San Diego, pick us up in his flat-nosed long van, and whisk us away to the beach, and essentially he was our best babysitter ever. But after he passed away, we had to come up here and take care of some things. I learned a few things about him.
It's okay.
Yeah, Uncle Jimmy, as we called him, he was always, he was always our best uncle. He'd show up at Grandma Mae's house, his mom, and he had this old hippie van, he'd open the door on it and jump in and go to the beach. He's always that type of uncle for us.
But like I said, coming up here, we learned, like Stephanie said, he compartmentalized a lot, and we ended up meeting a bunch of good people up here. One being Stephanie and Twyla, Bart, Frank, and Nona and Catherine. Of course, he liked to drink scotch, and I'm not much of a scotch drinker either. But the last time he came to the house was a couple months ago. He had to teach me about scotch. Unfortunately, I bought a couple good bottles of scotch after having a conversation with him that the scotch that I did have was subpar for him. So I bought a couple nice bottles of scotch, and we'll have to toast to him going forward. But I want to say to Denise that he had a whole bunch of the union shirts and things like that, and so we've gathered all 20,000 of them. But we ended up, we're going to make a nice quilt, and that way you can bring it down to the hall and you can display that where you want to. But I just want to thank everybody for coming today. It means a lot.
Thank you. We weren't a big part of this part of his life, so it's really cool to see his friends. We just weren't really involved in that way. He's pretty standoffish on some of that stuff with us. But we have different views and different things going on, and that never stopped us from getting together and seeing each other. But I wish I would have saw more of him. We got lucky. He came down for our son's graduation. They're both the same age, so he just came down in June to Roseburg and visited with us, stayed a while. And we took him up and went to Olive Garden and all that stuff. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. So we got to see him, close to this time, so it was really special. And it's really nice to see all you guys. It's really good.
And he was selfish because he kept all you from us. So have that conversation with him because, like I said, I met a bunch of great people coming up here. So I regret not being able to have that with him as well. So we're going to make a point to keep in touch. But I feel that we met that we got to come some. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
No one has to. I just want everyone to have an opportunity. Okay, so from here we move to SEIU speakers. I have not checked to see if they all arrived. Is Mike Powers, President of 503 here? Mike here?
Yes.
Ah, come on up. Come on down.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Mike Powers, and I'm president of our union and of James Union, SEIU Local 503. Thank you so much to everyone who put this remembrance and celebration together. I think I'm going to choke up a little bit. I did not anticipate that. I did not anticipate that. I want to thank James Union family here in Eugene, his University of Oregon sublocal 085 family, and his Union retirees sublocal 001 family. In particular, James Earl, or Johnny Earl, Johnny Earl, president of the sublocal here at the University of Oregon, Twyla Jackson, president, and Barb Casey, vice president of our retirees. And I know many others contributed to getting us all out here this evening, and to all of you, thank you very much. With the passing of James, so many of us lost a family member, a chosen family member, a colleague, friend, labor leader, peace activist, and my favorite, a whiskey drinker. It is a time to mourn, and really, it's a time for us to celebrate James and his time with us. He brought life and laughter and commitment and struggle and love to all of us. And as a labor leader, to people he never even met. Back in 2004, he was first elected to our union's small donor political action committee that we call CAPE. It was there that I first met James when I was elected to the Cape Council the following cycle. And later, from 2012 to 2018, he was voted by his colleagues to lead as chair of the Cape Council. Now, there are many leadership styles, as you all might imagine. James' style included an ever-present smile, an inviting and welcoming smile for any member from any background, from anywhere in our state. If you were willing to fight with him and improve the lives of working people and bring the fight to the streets and to the legislature, you were on his team. His style was also by example. He was not to be outworked. He reached out to everybody. He built us up, encouraging and challenging us to serve generously. He worked hard so that the candidates we endorsed and the fights we took to the legislature were people and fights representing every worker in the state of Oregon. James also served as union steward at the University of Oregon for several years. Now, if you don't know, a union steward represents you in the workplace, standing with you and fighting for you against unfair treatment by managers or administrators. So yeah, James was a good guy. And yeah, he would also take on a fight. He also served on our board of directors from 2008 through 2016, when he finished his final term as statewide vice president. I believe our members were served well when they repeatedly voted him into board leadership. Now, these are just some of the roles and successes of his labor life. I know that there's so much more to James Jacobson that we all know from different times and different places. And so I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of those stories tonight. So thank you, and thanks again for being here for us to all celebrate a life well lived. Thank you.
Well, I'm pretty sure I saw Melissa here. Melissa Unger, 503 SEIU Executive Director. It's your turn.
Mike seemed to get a heads up that it was his turn. Hi, it's amazing to see so many people here. As I walked in, it was a blast of past of SEIU. And that is fitting for James Jacobson. because he showed up for, as Mike said, workers across our state consistently and all the time. And so the fact that his union family shows up today to honor him and celebrate him is only fitting. When he passed, I had the opportunity to talk to a variety of people, and the thing that really struck me, and the thing that I have been really thoughtful about ever since, is that I often think of a union as a place where we fight to make wins for workers, or for workers to get better wages or better protections on the job. But James is a reminder that a union is also a community of people who come together, who find solidarity, who find lifelong friends, who find family, and that it is not just a place where we fight, but it is also a place of love and support, and he embodied that in every way by bringing his whole self and making people so excited to be with him. And as a young staff member, he was Cape Chair. When I first came on to staff at SEIU, now forever ago it feels like, but he was the most supportive Cape Chair of someone who was trying to figure out how to support a bunch of members in a big new job. He always had my back. And as I progressed through SEIU, he checked in on me in a way that felt loving and supportive, and like I was gonna be okay, because James was gonna have my back. And the reality is he always had my back. And there's very few people who I've been able to meet in my life who have made me feel more loved instantly than James Jacobson. So I'm so happy to be here with all of you today to celebrate his just amazing life and the community he brought to all of us, and the reminder he's given to me that our union is about so much more. It is about family, it's about community, it's about finding support and love. So thank you very much.
Yeah, that's our James. Okay, next is Johnny. Where's Johnny? Johnny Earl, SEIU Vice President and IRS Bargaining Chairman.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hello. Thank you very much for giving us James. It's an honor to meet you and to see James had a family. And he had spoken to me about you once at a rally for climate justice several months ago. And I asked him if he had any family here, and he claimed you.
I wasn't sure how that was going to go.
So surprise, Melissa. Yes, I knew you didn't know you were speaking. But, unfortunately, James Manning, our senator for this local community, wrote a few things he cannot be with us today, and he asked me to read those to you. It saddened me that I'm unable to join you today in person to properly honor the life and legacy of James Jacobson. Especially when called upon to take action, James routinely stepped up and regularly showed up. Every working person in our community, the next generation of Oregon, owed James Jacobson our gratitude. And SEIU International Picket Line won't be the same without James. A pro-worker rally, Earth Day event, or anti-war action won't be the same without James. Fighting for fair, equitable contracts, standing strong against a war with Iran, defeating Donald Trump, working for social justice and combating climate justice. These may sound like campaign talking points, but they were James Jacobs through and through. Robert Clemente said, if you had a chance to accomplish something that will make things better for people coming behind you, you don't do that. If you don't do that, you are wasting your time on earth. James certainly didn't waste his time. Without doubt, his activism and accomplishment made all of us better. Truth to that. James died. You know, we had a rally on campus. I'm the president of the local at the University of Oregon. We had a rally on campus on Friday. James wasn't there, but Thursday night, the bargaining team was in town, and James wasn't there. And we heard that he was sick. But earlier that morning, he had sent a text about Kate and what was going on with that and who was elected. So we know that he was alive earlier that morning, because I was a part of that text chain. But when we found out on Saturday night, I found out that James had died, I called Siobhan, Siobhan Martin, our deputy director, on Sunday morning to inform her. And she knew. Melissa knew. SEIU knew. It was spreading fast that James had died. And all of us was devastated. When I saw the email on Facebook, I said, this is true. No way. This could not. I know he was sick, but he could not have left us so fast. Your wings are ready. Our hearts were not. Our hearts are still hurting. I still think of James. James affected me. I'm sitting in a role that James had as vice president of this union, statewide union. I've sat in roles as vice president of my local. I sat on CAPE. All things that James has done. I have followed James. But I was also on an executive committee with James when he was much more active in the workplace. And we didn't always get along. He was strong opinionated. He was a proud gay man. He was a proud gay man. And as I feel, I'm a proud black man. And James was just so much as I am. And I will miss James every day. Every day that I go on that campus. I work in the same department that James worked in, for one. And yeah, we're hurting. But at the same time, we'll go on. The road before us had potholes and speed bumps, but nothing that our union or collective. We together can get through anything and navigate through anything. James worked tirelessly for them, for us. He believed in goodness and decency. He shared our hopes and our fears. And we will not forget James. It's an honor you were here. Lastly, I'd like to say I'd like to thank my union, SEIU 503 statewide, for supplying food, for renting the rooms, for stepping up to the plate. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the retiree local, which I am the state president, is a great honor, and it was really a way that James and I connected once again. I first met James through being elected to be on the Cape Council, and we carpooled, and boy, was that a great way to get to know somebody. and we had a great time. My name's Jacobson, his name's Jacobson, I'm E-N, he's O-N, so we had our, back and forth on our name and our Norwegian heritage, Nordic heritage, and so, so I asked at our last retiree meeting, statewide meeting, that during our time that we check in, that everyone say a word, and we did one of those word cloud things. You probably can't see it, but it's where, you put together the words that people say. I'm sorry, this isn't, something I can put up, but some of the things that people said about James is a brother, an activist, a deep thinker, uplifting, part of family, dedication, constant, presente, positive, happy, dependable, a warrior, reliable, forthright, struggle, passionate, and striving. And I want to really emphasize that he leaves a big hole. So partly too, what this has brought to my mind is that we need to celebrate each other while we're still alive too. And so as part of our check-ins, I'm going to pick a name out of a hat, and we're going to be doing this while I'm still president anyway, where we'll just go around and we'll give each other a strong word of or not, but probably occasionally say some nice things about it. And then because of the music, you know, and I decided I wanted to read a poem. I found this one. It's by Mary Oliver, and I kind of had a solstice theme when I Googled it, so it's called White Eyes. In winter, all the singing is in the tops of the trees, where the wind bird with its white eyes shoves and pushes among the branches. Like any of us, he wants to go to sleep, but he's restless. He has an idea, and slowly it unfolds from under his beating wings as long as he stays awake. But his big, round music, after all, is too breathy to last. So it's over. In the pine crown, he makes his nest. He's done all he can. I don't know the name of this bird. I only imagine his glittering beak tucked in a white wing, while the clouds, which he has summoned from the north, which he has taught to be mild and silent, thicken and begin to fall into the world below like stars, or the feathers of some unimaginable bird that loves us, that is asleep now and silent, that has turned itself into snow.
So from what I understand, Guillermo did not make it, is that correct? Okay, all right. Okay, so then we move on to some specific friends. Next will be Frank Ratty. Frank used to be the medical examiner for Lane County, and he and his wife Barb, they're some of my bestest friends, along with James. And without Frank, we would not have been able to get into his apartment and find his body. So we're very grateful to Frank for helping us find our friend.
Well, that's not why I'm here. I am Frank Ratty, and I originally said that I'd be willing to speak about James because I pictured just a really small gathering. But I was mistaken. But somehow, I guess you took me seriously, and so here I am. So I wrote something. James Jacobson, my friend. To be honest, and out of respect for James, and to you, his family, and to you, his closest friends, out of full disclosure, I must disclose that I really didn't know James very well. Unless you count the fact that we shared some Oregon Thanksgivings as chosen family, and several 4th of July backyard grill fests. Our patriotic fervor was kindled by chicken and ribs, side salads, corn on the cob, and more than an occasional glass of Scotch whiskey. In fact, much of what I know about James personally has come after we found him dead in bed at home. His advocate, Stephanie, my wife, Barbara, and me. That was the order of most of my occasions with James. I'd never been in his home before. Afterwards, his life poured out of that house in boxes of files like a presidential library. Most went to recycling at the dump in 3 trailer loads and more. Some few mementos distributed, not much a court would call property. But every scrap of personal history of 30 years and more, we mined and salvaged for the gems. And so, the gems are what remain. I learned that James Jacobson was a private man, but surely not cloistered. I met his nephew, Troy. We called him Uncle Jimmy. I viewed the video of his taking leave of San Diego in 1992, revered and celebrated as an activist, his vocation. He poured out his life struggling against inequities, injustices, our failure to fulfill our aspirations. Articulate, knowledgeable, persistent, courageous, enduring. They are the gems that we can take with us. I do not know James very well, but well enough to regard him a friend.
And besides the scotch, he was also put in charge of making the fancy margaritas. So we're supposed to have connection online for the California Friends this week. Do we have that going? There. We did a lot of activism in California, much of which we just found out by going through with stuff and passing the word through Facebook and then the films they sent back to us. I'm not sure which ones were wanting to speak. I'm sorry, what was that?
They should be able to unmute and the speaker will show up there.
Okay, so. Okay, can you reply to the raised hand? Is that what we're doing here? Yeah. Hit the unmute at the bottom of your screen.
All the way to your left.
Yeah. Yeah, bottom row on the left, hit unmute.
Jacqueline?
They're unmuted.
Unmute.
You're all still muted.
No, that's me.
It's all right? Yeah, that's all right. Okay, whoops. I still can't hear you, sorry. It still says mute on the bottom up there. Is that us? Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Now we can hear you.
We can almost hear you. Yeah.
Eugene, he was, as you, all of you, a lot of you might know, a beloved activist in San Diego. And he worked for Anti-Nuclear Power, Anti-Nuclear Weapons, and especially Peace and Justice. And he helped form a group in San Diego for, political group there. And there was only about 200 of us, peace and justice folks down there in the 70s and 80s. I got there in the 80s. So we were a tight group. And he was one of our fearless leaders. In 1977, he and others formed KEEN, Community Energy Action Network, which I joined. And he served as executive director, and he was paid by an angel. And we never quite knew who it was, but we think it was the writer of the Dr. Seuss, Ted Keisel, our guest was that. He was, his work expanded, and pretty soon we joined Alliance for Survive, which was a national organization and part of an anti-nuclear national organization. Our group was always sponsoring education events and doing tables all over town. We created a newsletter called The Contaminated Times, and we all wrote for it, and we distributed around town at many places like the health food stores to make sure that we're getting our word out. We had many vigils and protests. We supported Earth Day down there, and endless protests at SDG&E and General Dynamics. our social justice work was traveling also to Big Mountain, Arizona, and I'm originally from Tucson, so that meant a lot to me to go with Jim. And we brought supplies and support to the Navajo people there, and they were all resisting their relocation by Peabody Coal, who was taking their water and destroying the land there. So anybody who came with Jim became lifelong supporters of the Diné people and a believer in the power of sage. Every Halloween we had a big party called Spook for the Nukes. Spook the Nukes. And it was by Alliance. And it included fabulous costumes. And it was always anti-nuclear related, and Jim always had a nice winning costume there. He was also part of the Ground Zero Players, a direct action affinity group founded in 1984 at the Nevada nuclear test site. He was arrested many times for civil disobedience, and he demonstrated deep commitment to the anti-nuclear madness of the 80s. Recently, as last July, he made a pilgrimage with the Ground Zero Players to honor the founder of the peace camp there. I loved him along with our beautiful San Diego family, and we will just remember him forever. We also went to lots of lectures by an incredible New Zealand activist, and I remember that very well too. This little thing was written by Margie Brooks, Janice Kiefhofer, Carol Jonko, and me, kind of editing. And we were all his dear San Diego colleagues and friends, and we were just so sad to see him move up to Oregon, but for him, it was an amazing move, and we knew he would fit right in. So we're just so sad, but we're so grateful Jake was in our life. Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Thanks, Justin. Sherry, welcome.
Lorraine.
You're up.
Lorraine.
Yeah, she can hear. She's just. Oh, I see.
Yeah, hi, Roger Savini here. I'm originally from San Diego. Worked with Jim in his capacity as director of the Alliance for Survival and the Peace Resource Center and other active peace activists, social justice activists in San Diego. And I was pleased to lock arms with him in 1988 at the Nevada nuclear test site where we crossed the line and was arrested by agents of the Department of Energy. And now, and we sat handcuffed together in the dirt in a kind of a concentration camp that was set up there for 1,500 activists who crossed the line and entered the nuclear power within the nuclear test site. I also worked with Jim, as I called him, Jim, on the San Onofre issue. There was a nuclear power plant in San Diego County that was using radioactive materials, and it had was doing other environmental damage in the legal area. And as a consequence of Jim's work against the San Onofre nuclear power plant, it was eventually decommissioned. And I credit Jim Jacobson and Alliance for Survival for making that happen.
Yes.
I also recall when, I don't know if you remember the Exxon Valdez oil spill in Alaska, and they towed the Exxon Valdez to San Diego because there was a shipyard there to repair the single hull vessel the Exxon Valdez had built. And so Jim and I organized and the Alliance for Survival Group organized an event to call attention to our dependence on fossil fuels and the global warming issue and other environmental disaster that would environmental disaster if something's happened. I'll just, there are many other actions in which I participated that Jim organized, and I say that Jim was a real hero for me. There were two heroes that back in the day, in the San Diego days. Tanya Winter, I don't know if Jackson remembers Tanya Winter, and Jim Jacobson. They were my heroes, and I tell you their names. I carried on an uninterrupted struggle for peace, social justice, and environmental sustainability with the instruction, the talent, and the heroic nature of Jim and Tanya Winter's role model they were for me. So he was a real hero for me. Thank you very much.
Chuck?
Yeah.
Hi, so, I know, hi, how do we get in on cue? Raise your hand. So I met Jake through my late husband, Thorne, and also through Robert and Gigo, who may be going to speak in a little bit. I'm in San Diego, so I met Jake 1975, so he's Jake to me, and I knew of his activism and his concern for the environment and people's rights and quality of life, etc. But I knew Jake more when he was downtiming. And
Yeah.
Here's Jake. Let's see if this comes in way. Here's Jake downtiming. Here's Jake he's not drinking his scotch. He's drinking a glass of wine. I'm in that picture. I'm to his left, so I'm over there. That's my late husband. That's a late friend of ours. So I'm the only one left in this group. So I mean, he was the sweetest. I knew him. So let's say 75. How old was he? 31, maybe 30. And so we get together with, hopefully Robert and Gigo will talk. We get together hopefully every couple of years up in Santa Cruz to visit with his old friends who knew him before me. I mean, he always chatted with us, particularly at the solstice, because that was such an important time for him as part of his concern for the planet and the environment.
Yeah.
We had chatted maybe a week or 2 weeks before. We were trying to figure out how to get up to visit our friends Robert and Gigo in Santa Cruz, and it just wasn't working out. And you know, life is too short. So if you want to do something with someone, do it as soon as you can, because you may not get that moment. So I just want to say, here's to Jake. Maybe I should put some scotch in this because he loves scotch or something. So to Jake, he's there with some friends and he's on his way. So there you are. Thank you.
Can you see us?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. Hello. This is Gigo. My name's Robert. The Zoom account is under Gigo's name. Anyway, I may have known Jake. Well, okay, when I met him, he was Jim. And then and then in Oregon, he was James. So I met him, believe this or not, in 1970, 53 years ago. Wow. He and I were working in Democratic Party politics. He was working for Jesse Unruh, who ran unsuccessfully against that horrible Ronald Reagan. Can you still see us?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. So, I was working for an assembly candidate who actually won because his opponent was indicted for bribery. So, because it wasn't a very democratic party town back then. I think it's, after the people moved from other places to San Diego, it became much more liberal. So Jigo and I moved to Santa Cruz. So I met Jigo in 50 years ago last month in October, 73. And so Jake and Jigo and I and a bunch of other people, we did our political action. When I was his housemate when he was setting, I was in grad school and he was setting up the first recycling in San Diego.
Yeah.
We're so used to recycling now, but back then, nobody knew what the hell it was. And, we worked in politics, but then Jigo and I moved to Santa Cruz in '76. So we didn't live in San Diego for too much, we didn't live in there after that. So Jake, which I'll call him Jake, because that's how we knew him most recently. He would visit us, and we would visit him, not so much in Eugene, but I have a lot of relatives in Grants Pass and Rogue River, and Glendale. I don't know if you know where that is. So, so we basically were just great friends, all of us. We loved him so much, respected him. Most people go along and get jobs and worry about their financial well-being, but he did not. He had jobs, but as somebody mentioned earlier, he had an angel. So he had kind of a stipend, but he thought more about humanity on this planet than he did about his own financial well-being. And so he was, I think, one of the most selfless people I've ever come across, certainly. I think most of you would agree.
Yes.
He was a wonderful human being who put himself sometimes second to his work. And, that's fine. That's who he was. We just have so much respect for the kind of work he did. And, we were planning a trip because, we were planning for him to come down from Eugene and Chuck to come up from San Diego because we're kind of midway here in Santa Cruz. We're midway between. But anyway, Chuck was right. You've got to, don't put things off, especially at this age. I'm 78, Jigo's 74. You can't put things off. If you want to see somebody do it, we loved him a lot. We had a lot of respect for him, and we're totally shocked when we got the news from Twyla and Catherine, I think. So anyway, our hats off to you folks who knew him so well up there and had such a great relationship with him. Wish we knew you better, but we did have one thing in common, that was knowing Jim, Jake, James, and having had the pleasure of company for so many years. Hope you all are well. Happy holidays. Take care. What do I do?
Recording stopped.
Just mute yourself. Just hit mute. Done.
Sandra?
Where'd Sandra go?
people about this in San Diego. I now live in Berkeley area. I left in 90, so. But he had people, and I'd like to just read their names that did a lot with him and for the group. Joe and Barbara Gartner, you might know them. Margie and Nigel Brooks, Melanie and Bob Sherman, Sandy, I'm glad they couldn't be here today. Ellen Schmeeding, John and Lisa Gardner, Bob Holtzman, a dear friend of his. Carolyn and David Reed, Gary Kennedy, Stella Rubenstein, Elizabeth Bacon, Linda Newsom, Bill, and Joe Mueller. And they all have been talking, we've all been talking about it. We just wanted to shout out that they really wanted to be here because they weren't able to. Thank you for letting me do that, and thank you for having me.
Beverly, did you want to say something?
I'm sorry?
Did you want to say something?
Sure. I'm Beverly. I'm from San Diego, where I met Jim years and years ago, and I live in Oregon now. And all of the things we're hearing today, of course, are just the light that we've lost that we'll carry with us as we move on to do meaningful work. But I want to remember the Jim that, had a little sarcastic edge to him and loved cats and loved laughing and loved gardening. Kathy Parker and I were recently visiting him in August, and he seemed so happy. He, of course, was beginning to lose his memory a little, and I believe that we were all spared from him living with dementia as his life went on, and this is wonderful in a way that he has found his wings now that can fly free and not have to suffer through that kind of disability. It would have been very hard for him. I also love the fact that he loved to sing and dance and play, and I think that part of us sometimes gets forgotten when we're working in deep movement issues, and that's one thing he never let go. When Janice and Bob and all of the other folks from so many different movements got together, he was the first person out there on the drum, laughing, hugging, reminding us how much he cared. I miss him terribly, and I appreciate all of you for letting us be a part of this and doing so much for him. Thank you for being his friend for all these years. Some of you we've heard a lot about over the years, so it's nice to see your faces.
Okay, do we have anyone from LERC, Labor Education Resource? Because we
Sorry, couldn't hear you.
Because we had set aside time, but I haven't seen anyone. Okay, and is Doyle here? Is Doyle Canning here? Doyle? No, she wanted to talk, but I guess something else came up. Okay, so
Stephanie, could I speak?
well, I was just going to announce that, yes. It's an echo. Yes, we are going to do open speaking now about all friends. We're going to try and keep it to 2 or 3 minutes each because there's a lot of people here. And we're done at 7, so we've got 45 minutes. But go for it, and feel free to keep going back to get more food. Yeah, come on up, John.
I would love to have talked to him about it. My lovely partner is filled with nostrums for me to take, just like the amyloid plaque going up the words. You guys knew this other guy. We knew Larch. Larch stood in circles with us more times than I can remember now. He was a great magical practitioner. He could channel that loving, magical energy. He made any group that he stood with better. he was manual. And I wanted to make sure that you heard that part of his life. I felt lucky to have been a part of it. I guess that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to out him one more way. So somewhere he's laughing. And in that space between consciousness and sleep, recently I had a vision of James at the edge of the woods, and he was
You have to know, I'm with the union, I know how to yell. Just want to say that James, I really got to know him through the union and then also through Catherine and some of her gatherings too. I found him to be loving, open, welcoming, a wonderful person. But I did want to just say that when he chaired our cake meetings, if we were chatting in the background and he wanted us to be quiet, blam, that gavel came down fast. So, loving kindness, yes, but you know, everybody get in line and in order. I'm just so gratified to see everyone. We now know that Jimmy, Jim, Jake, James managed to integrate all of these personalities into his life and spread his love and activism outward. And I think he was so self-effacing, he would almost be embarrassed by all of this. But he deserves this because we're going to take what he shared with us and carry it on. Yes, we will. I got a message from one of our past presidents, Rob Sisk, for SEIU. And so he sent in some words too. He said, of course I was aware of James' passing, and even if it was 20 years from now, it would still have been too early for a person of his quality. Like so many others, I will miss him and regret I am not there to pay him tribute in person. And then he went on to say, and I will pull this up too, he said, James and I had numerous union adventures, and he was always my preferred roommate when we traveled to events. Before our brotherhood in SEIU 503, we were both active in different places and in different aspects of the nuclear weapons movement. In addition to union activism, we both continued in our peace and social justice concerns and activism. And then he adds something which I'm learning a lot about today. At a festive event sponsored by one of our union allies, I discovered James and I shared something else. An appreciation for single malt scotch. How many times have we heard that today? I never knew. I think when we get to the end of this, when everyone has finished speaking, we're going to play a little video for you. He said, in that vein, I will lift a parting glass to James. And that is literally an Irishman singing a song. So if that would be appropriate for us to do that, I'll talk Louie into that later on when everything's finished. Thank you.
So for me, why not sing Solidarity Forever? It's an error. It's a mistake not to sing it. So would some of you sing it with me?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, so let's do that. And I want to say that when I think about the first word, about the inspiration of the Union, and I'm going to sob like a baby at some point, he was that man. He deserves a plaque in the Union Hall. I started when SEIU was OPEU, and I had the blessing of meeting all these wonderful people who transitioned an association into a real union that is now phenomenal nationwide. And I just feel blessed to have known James because he was one of my activists when I was a union rep. And it's just so hard to believe he's not on the planet anymore. But I do see him going Mach 10 through the cosmos with his hair on fire. And I think perhaps in the ultimate consciousness that he will prevail and maybe we'll get to peace and no nukes and maybe people before money. So that's, I think, a reason to sing. When the Union's inspiration through the work of his blood shall run, there can be no greater power anywhere under the sun. I can't stand up here and do a song.
I'll sing with you.
Earth is weaker than
The feeble strength of one, for the Union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the Union makes us strong.
In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoard and gold, greater than the might of armies magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the Union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the Union makes us strong.
Be prepared, beginning to speak. Jane, I live in Portland, and James would like to go, a lot of our union events always took place in Portland. And lots of times the union said, hey, you can go to the events, like we're not paying for the hotel and, all that kind of stuff, which totally makes sense. But I live in Portland, and they invited James to stay at my house. So I have a very big liquor cabinet, and he's I said, James, I have Jimmy Walker Blue. Now, if you know Scotch, is Johnny Walker Black, Johnny Walker Red, Johnny Walker Gold, Johnny Walker Green, but Primo is blue. So James spent a lot of time at my house. But he and I were a combo. I was secretary treasurer, he was vice president. I was chair, he was vice chair. He was chair, I was vice chair. We campaigned together. He was this great, fantastic lover of people, but he had that sarcastic bent and he knew the dirt on everybody. So if Kate, as you've heard, our political pack, if we were about to recommend or endorse a candidate, and we're all like, yeah, it's almost like a fait accompli. Wait a minute! James would stand up and he'd talk about the vote they made 12 years ago that screwed us over. So we better think about it because James always knew. He was so gracious. You walk into a meeting, he'd be the first one to hug you, to smile. And I know you've mentioned that this is a guy that did not have a great deal of financial backing. Never would share a problem, generous with what he didn't have in cash, spirit, love, and devotion. He was just such a joy to work with. Linda Bergen, right, sitting right here, she was the president. Heather Conroy was our executive director. I was James's vice president. We were a formidable team, but he was the one when we'd all get pissed off, no, not James. He was a kind, good guy, and I will miss him terribly. Thank you.
If there's anyone else, speak now, otherwise we're just gonna eat and mingle, and no one's allowed out of here without taking at least 2 items from the memento table. We have a video going first.